Hi, kindergarten and first grade. We are almost done with our Pilgrim stories. We have 2 more pictures. Hopefully you got the Mayflower compact, the sentence written underneath it. And I forgot to show you a picture of Samoset. Here's a picture in my book that shows Samoset looking at the boat in the harbor, Plymouth Harbor. The Mayflower was still anchored there in Plymouth Harbor. And so this is at the beginning of the chapter of Samoset. I didn't show you that picture. But we have finished with Samoset, and now we're getting ready to start a chapter called Treaty of Peace. And let's see, what does that say? No, that's just Stories of the Pilgrims. So this is the beginning, the picture. Now that shows a different type of wigwam. It's interesting, isn't it? Totally different. But remember, those teepees were wrong. That was just a wrong picture. These Indians look pretty skinny. Don't know. Let's find out what's going to happen. All right. Get my Pilgrim stories. But the picture we're going to find today that you're going to turn to is the one after the Mayflower compact. What does that look like? An Englishman and an Indian. Might be Samoset, might be somebody else. Making peace. Let's find out what's going to happen. The Treaty of Peace. The next day passed, and no Indians came to the village. The day after this was Sunday, and the Pilgrims were always careful to make Sunday a holy day. They met in the common house to sing and pray to God and to listen to Elder Brewster's sermons. When their service was over, they started quietly toward their homes. Before them marched Captain Standish with his gun, ready to give the alarm if he saw any danger. Suddenly, 5 great Indians came out of the forest. They wore suits of deerskin, and their faces were streaked with gray-colored paints. In their hair, they wore long eagle feathers, and each man carried a roll of fine furs. Oh, remember, what did Samoset say when he left? And what did Captain Standish and William Bradford say? Yes, we'll trade with you. We'll pay you for your furs if you bring them. So he kept his word. It is Samoset and his friends. That means 5 more hungry men to feed, said Priscilla to Mistress Brewster. We forgot to find out Priscilla lived, even though her family died. I forgot to mention that. I was afraid Priscilla was going to die too, but she didn't. She made it through. I think we have plenty of food to share with them, answered Mistress Brewster. We will set the table for them in the common house, and they need not come into our houses at all. It unsettles the children to see them looking in at the doors. After the Indians had eaten their dinner, they spread their furs upon the table. Then they motioned to bowls and kettles and knives and other things which they wanted in return for their rolls of furs. No, Samoset, this is Sunday. This is our Lord's Day. Tell your friends we cannot trade with them on the Lord's Day. Come tomorrow and we will be glad to buy your furs. Samoset could not see why one day was any better than another, but he told his friends what the Pilgrims had said. So the Indians rolled up their furs and, without another word, walked out of the village. Several days passed and the Indians did not return. The Pilgrims began to wonder if the savages were angry because they had not taken the furs on Sunday. The men were again in the common house drawing plans for the fort to be built upon the hill when Francis Billington and Love Brewster rushed into the room. They were pale with fright and out of breath from running. Indians, Indians, they gasped. We were down by the brook gathering willows to make whistles, and we saw at least 100 Indians come out into the woods. But Miles Standish did not wait to hear the end of their story. He ran to the door and looked toward the forest. Yes, the boys were right. There was a large band of Indians on the hill nearby. They talked together and pointed toward Plymouth village. Quietly, Captain Standish turned and gave his orders. Each man knew just where he was to stand and what he was to do in case of an attack. They'd made plans. They'd planned it out. You are? Praise Jesus. Eliana just said they have no finals. Yes, Jesus. Hallelujah. Because you guys don't really have finals. You don't even know what finals are. Except first graders, I gave you a bunch of grammar sheets this week. So I would like you to do your very best work. You guys hang in there. I'm so proud of you. All your good work. I got great work from Virginia, a stack of work from Emory. I'm so proud of that good work that I see. And I'm getting ready to put it in everybody's portfolios. Okay. We just had to take a break for a second. Yes, the boys were right, and there was a large band of Indians on the hill nearby. They talked and pointed toward Plymouth village. Quickly, Captain Standish, they knew where to stand in case of attack. Then Samoset and another Indian left the band and came slowly down into the village. Miles Standish and Edward Winslow went forward to meet them. "This is Squanto, friend of English," said Samoset. "You are both welcome in our village," answered Edward Winslow. "We hope you have brought many furs to trade with us today." "No furs," replied Samoset. "Massasoit, the great chief of Redmond, comes to meet the white chief." Massasoit would be the white chief's brother. When the Pilgrims learned that the king of many tribes waited to see them, they wished to show him honor. Governor Carver prepared some gifts for the chief, and Edward Winslow, wearing his finest armor, went with Squanto to the place where the Indians waited. See, they didn't come right into the village. They waited in the forest or somewhere, not super close. Massasoit looked very like a king as he rested his long bow upon the ground and stood to receive the white men. He was very tall and straight. His garments of deerskin were beautifully trimmed with shells and shining quills, and he wore a headband of eagle feathers which reached from the top of his head all the way to the ground. I'm going to show you a picture. Take a look at that. That's incredible. Look at that. Those eagle feathers, and it reached all the way to the ground. Had a very long bow, and he was very tall, the description said. The adjective said, first graders. Okay. Upon the grass before Massasoit, Edward Winslow spread a red blanket of fine wool, upon which he placed strings of bright beads, a knife, and a long copper chain. Wonder what they do with a copper chain. Don't even know why they had one. When he had slowly and carefully arranged all these things, Winslow arose and said to Massasoit, "My chief sends you these gifts and invites you to his house. He would be your friend." So who was Winslow talking about there? Was he talking about Miles Standish or Governor Carver? No. He was talking about King James of England, who was in England, didn't come with them. They were just a little group of pilgrims who came to the United States, or to America, the New World. When Squanto told Massasoit these words, the chief motioned Winslow to stay there until he returned. Then, taking 20 of his warriors, he went to the village led by Squanto. Wonder which village. Captain Standish, Master Allerton, and 6 other soldiers dressed in their bright armor met Massasoit and his men at the brook and escorted them to the common house. Well, he came into their village, the Pilgrim village. Here a large rug was spread and cushions were laid for the chief and his braves to sit upon. Soon the sound of drum and fife were heard, and Governor Carver entered, followed by the rest of the little army. Then meat and drink were brought, and after the company had eaten together, Governor Carver and Massasoit made a treaty of peace. Massasoit arose and in his own language promised that the Indians would not harm the white men, and if other Indian tribes made war upon Plymouth, Massasoit would help the Pilgrims. He promised that his tribes should not bring their bows and arrows into the white men's settlement. When Samoset had told in English what Massasoit had said, Governor Carver spoke. He said the Pilgrims would not harm the Indians, nor carry their guns into the Indian villages when they went there to visit. He promised Massasoit they would always pay the Indians a fair price for the furs and other things they bought from them. When the governor's words had been told to Massasoit by Squanto, a treaty of peace was signed. The Indian chief could not write, but instead he made a little cross. Massasoit did not understand the signing of the paper. When Indians made a treaty of peace, the two chiefs always smoked a peace pipe. So the governor and the chief smoked the great stone peace pipe which Samoset brought to them. Now are the white men and the red men always brothers, said Samoset. The Massasoit unrolled the gift. Then Massasoit unrolled the gifts he had brought to his white brother, Governor Carver. These were the finest of furs, a bow and arrows like his own, and a necklace of bear's teeth. When Massasoit and his company were ready to return to their camp, Captain Standish and his soldiers escorted them as far as the brook to show them honor. This treaty of peace between the Pilgrims and Indians was kept for 50 years. In all this time, they did not break their promises to each other. Let's see. There was another picture I wanted to show you. Well, this is the one that we're going to color today. It's very... So get out this picture. Turn to this picture. That's incredible that they did not break it for 50 years. Okay, so you can see that doesn't look like Massasoit. That looks more like either Squanto or Samoset. And I'm not sure which Pilgrim that's supposed to be, but there's the peace pipe. And there's a tree. A tree is often a symbol of peace. So let's write on this. Get your pencil. And we are going to write this sentence. The Pilgrims' treaty with the Indians lasted nearly 50 years. Don't worry about it. I'm going to write it for you. And I think I'm going to write it underneath. I'm going to start far over on the edge this time. Capital T-H-E, the... finger space, Pilgrims with a capital P, P-I-L-G-R-I-M-S. Now this meant that it belongs to them. It was their treaty. So we're going to put that apostrophe right after the S like we've done before. We've talked about apostrophes. The Pilgrims. Okay, and then we're going to write treaty. It doesn't have a capital T-R-E-A-T-Y, the Pilgrims' Treaty, finger space, with W-I-T-H, finger space, the Pilgrims' Treaty with, finger space, the, T-H-E. Okay, I'll stop right there and hold that for a minute. So what do you think about that story we've read so far, that part of the story? What did Governor Carver and Chief Massasoit promise to each other?